Wait. What's going on, everybody? This is Kevin Sixen Carlino, and I'm here with Game Director on Heroes of the Storm, Dustin Browder. How you doing today, Dustin?
Very good. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be great. So I think we should just jump right into it.
Okay.
So the very first thing I noticed when I played, there are no items.
No.
No items, no gold, no
Nope.
items. So
Nope.
what's up with that? Can you explain the rationale?
I can. There's a number of different variables that went into that. One of them was, you're playing as Arthas, and Arthas is going to get gold and buy a new sword. And we were struggling with that, just emotionally. It just didn't feel entirely right. The other thing that is maybe more of a mechanics-based answer to your question is, we really wanted to enable players to play a variety of different types of heroes. And to do that, we need to create different types of heroes. So we wanted to create dedicated support heroes, heroes that were really focused on healing, or heroes that were really focused on destroying enemy armies and fortifications, or heroes like Abathur, who's a commander, who's not even on the front line, he's always in the backfield. And we wanted to create that diversity of play. And the more we had things like golden items and individual leveling, we got to a place where players felt like, I need to be in the front lines, I need to be earning. If I need to earn, I need these types of powers. And then everybody became more and more like an assassin or a tank. That's what they became, right,
Sure.
in some form. And so we found that by making team leveling, by not dealing with items and gold, we got to a place, we got a very diverse set of hero designs. And that felt really great to us for this game.
Yeah, I mean, perfect example, Abathur is such a cool hero. I love him.
Right.
So what other maps and modes can we look forward to? I mean, in 2011, I believe you guys mentioned you may be playing on Tristram with the Diablo boss, which probably wouldn't make much sense now. But conceptually, what kind of other maps and modes are you guys may be playing around with?
So we're playing with a lot of different maps here at the show today, where we've got sort of these worlds of the Nexus we put together. These are these new spaces we've gone into, and one of the challenges we've had is when we take you back, to a place like Ashenvale, and you've got Malfurion murdering wood elves, or night elves, in Ashenvale, and it feels really, really awkward, right? So we found that it's a lot of fun for us, a lot of fun for our art guys and our designers to create some new spaces, to create the Nexus. So we've got the opportunity to create some characters you've never really seen before and interact with them. So you still got all the goodness of Blizzard in terms of the heroes, but then there's these weird new environments.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to focus on those right now. But we may down the road have, Stormwind versus Ogremar, and we have a map that does that. And that would be very cool as well. So
That would actually be great.
no, nothing has been drawn yet, but that is definitely something we've talked about.
All right, that's comforting. That's very cool. And on the same note, what about things like holiday events? What about like a Christmas-themed map?
No, I think that would be really cool.
Halloween map.
We're very excited by that possibility. That'd be really awesome.
That's exciting. And actually, yesterday, I believe, I heard you mention on the DirecTV stream that there would be a map editor.
Oh, yeah, we've got a map editor now. It's the StarCraft
So
map editor.
is that...
brought over. What you really want to know is, when can I make my own stuff and put it up into the game?
Yes.
Right?
So is it
going
to be a similar feature set to as the StarCraft? Like are we basically going to have the Galaxy editor, or is this a new
It's
editor?
very similar, but it's got some improvements, right?
Sure.
And we'll get a lot of those improvements back into the Galaxy editor. One of the advantages we have is we're sharing a technology base, so anything we do for one game, we can do for the other if it makes sense. So I think you'll find the editors to be extremely similar to one another, in terms of how they're set up. The really interesting question is, when can I upload my stuff into Heroes of the Storm? And I don't have a great answer for you that yet. It's something we really want to do. It's something we've done many times before, and it's been very successful for us to do that. One of the challenges we have in a free-to-play game, if you decide you're going to upload into StarCraft, you're going to upload something that's offensive, right, into our game. We can ban the map, we can ban your account, right?
Sure.
We can keep the environment at least relatively clean. In a free-to-play game, we don't have that choice. We can ban your account, you can just make a new one.
Right.
We don't really know who you are, and we have no power to stop you.
Right.
It's not an impossible problem to solve.
Sure.
There's a number of possible solutions. We just need to pick one.
Right.
And then go with it, and then see how that works. But I think this team is extremely passionate about getting these tools into the hands of the community, and I think you can expect us to be looking for ways to do that going forward.
So again, on a very related note, so that's as far as mapping and I suppose modding goes, but what about things like creating skins? Is that a possibility? Would you allow the community to create their own skins and maybe put them up for unlock?
It's something we'd be excited
like a workshop
about.
Type
Yeah, it's something we'd be excited about. We
mentioning other
haven't figured out how to do it yet exactly
Sure.
with our tech, but it's something we've talked about for sure, and it is a really cool feature.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Again, what about like team pennants or icons or things? Assuming this does take an esports route, is that something
It'd be the
that's
same
a
kind of thing.
possibility?
We're doing a bunch of stuff that in StarCraft 2 right now, and I think it's something we'd be pretty excited about for Heroes.
Okay. So jumping back to the heroes, I know in the group interview you mentioned that you had about 5 or 6 on paper and 10, that you're toying around with, or vice versa. 5 or 6 you're playing around with and 10 on paper. Are you able to tell us about any of these heroes?
Well, a few of them you've seen before that I think are really great heroes. We're not showing here on the show today. One is Sergeant Hammer, which is the name of our siege tank hero, and this is, a hero that has to stop, lock down, and then he gets a really long range and a lot of splash damage. And it, obviously, just like a siege tank in StarCraft, it really changes the way you play that hero, and you see it changes the way your allies play and how the enemy plays as well. Suddenly the enemy is in a position where they've got to figure out how to close with this guy, and not get beat up, and your allies are figuring out how can I block for Sergeant Hammer and protect him from enemy attackers, and so we have this special talent you can take on. The enemies take critical damage at maximum range.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's like a siege tank, except there is a minimum range. You're still taking some damage, but if you get him close, he's in a lot of trouble. If you dance around at the edge, you're going to get hammered, but this guy's going to smash you to pieces, right? So you'll see players suddenly using a lot of their escape abilities to close, right? To get past that sweet spot that the siege tank is trying to perform. Zeratul is also another hero that we don't have here today that's been with us in the past. He's absolutely enjoyed the play. He's always cloaked until he attacks, and if he stops attacking, he recloaks again. And so there's no mana cost.
Is that how Nova works?
As well. And there's no mana cost in this. You can just do it whenever you want. And so it makes him very, very sneaky. He's also got a blink ability, so he can close quickly and strike. Okay. There's a special talent for that that allows him to recall to the previous blink position.
That's cool.
So he can blink it and be gone before you even know it, which feels like Zeratul, right? It feels exactly like that character. So we're trying to hit the fantasy of these heroes and really make them feel like they're what you would imagine they would be, having seen them in a cinematic or read about them in a book or fought against them in a raid or whatever. We're trying to make them feel like they're heroes.
So, and again, we talked about this in the group interview, but to me, this is really cool. So what about like a Lost Vikings hero that splits into 3, or like a Rock and Roll Racing Mount, or
those are all absolutely on the table for us. Totally on the table. These are absolutely heroes we could do down the road. I know Lost Vikings has a pretty passionate backing inside the design and art team right now. I think. I
remember Sammy mentioning this on stage. I think in 2011.
Yeah, I would be surprised if the art is going to be started when we get back to the studio. And I know there are paper designs circulating among the design staff now, right? So
that's awesome.
I think Lost Vikings is something we'd definitely like to do.
So tell me a little bit about each of the hero roles. I understand that there is I believe you guys are using some terms interchangeably. It's the assassin / slayer, warrior.
We're using warrior for our tough guy role.
So he's like a tank?
Yeah, it's like a tank.
Okay.
These are the guys you'd expect. They're kind of sticky, very difficult to get off them. They can kind of block. They have lots of ways to keep people away from their friends, or to lock you down so they can close in and beat you. They're generally melee heroes, but that's not our goal for that always to be the case. We have our assassin heroes, and these are the damage dealers. They're a little lighter, but they want to pick out their targets and take them out. We have our support characters, which are generally they're either healers or they're buffers or they're the types of characters. And you got a character like Uther, who's got a couple of heals. His ultimate is about making people. He can bubble like a paladin. We've actually seen a bubble hearth inside this game where he bubbles up and there's 4 guys around him. He's like, I'm going back to base. Like, oh, it did not just happen. And we've got heroes like Tassadar that put shields on people and can block enemy movement. So supporting the other players and how they play. Then we have our specialist heroes. Until very recently, the specialist heroes were designated siege heroes. These were heroes that were designed to destroy enemy armies, destroy enemy towns. And such a core part of the game is pushing against enemy positions. We had heroes who were just about that. And then we developed Abathur. Right, this was a character that was a commander hero. Right. He's a commander. He's not even on the front line. He's always in the back, always away from the action, and he's leaping from hero to hero. He has the ability to infest an allied hero, and then he can cast skill shots off of that allied hero and put shields on that hero and put area effect abilities on that hero. And so when Abathur jumps inside you, it was very creepy. He says, "Must improve." And he appears, right? Like you suddenly, oh, Abathur's with me, right? And at that point, you're twice as powerful, 90% more powerful, you're a lot more powerful, right? And so it's really exciting to get his support. Now you really want to do something with it. And so now you two are moving as a unit. But then, if he sees somebody else, which will go, I'm done with you. And he leaves and goes somebody else. So he needs a lot of map awareness to play this character. You need to know what's going on. You need to understand your team. You need to understand the heroes that they're playing. You need to have some sense of the enemy team, what they're likely to do. And when you understand that, you can manipulate everything to your advantage, which is a very Abathur kind of way to play. He's not siege.
Right.
It's not support.
Okay.
It's kind of support. It's not really support. And so we changed the name of Siege to Specialist. And I think we're going to pour a lot of our weird characters that we want to create into that bucket. And this is the place where, if you want to sort of go off the grid, and try something new, this is where you go.
So the siege tank hero, it was General Warfield. His name was General Hammer or something along those lines?
Yeah, it was Warfield, but then we were looking at Warfield, and you imagine Warfield as a guy with a mechanical arm.
Right.
When have I ever seen Warfield inside a siege tank?
Right,
Like,
right.
this isn't working. And then people suggested Duke. We should go with Duke.
That'd be cool.
And then we thought, yeah, and everyone's like, I thought Duke was in a battle cruiser.
Yeah, in a battle cruiser.
And we're like, oh, but it wasn't he. He was a siege tank in the editor, right? But he was a battle cruiser. Okay. And so we finally said, for some of these characters, like a barbarian or a witch doctor, we're just going to invent a name for these guys, and you're going to know what it is.
I did notice that.
Right?
That's very
so
cool.
we're going to go with Sonya the Barbarian, and we're going to go with Sergeant Hammer the siege tank. Right?
Sergeant Hammer. Okay. So he's that's a specialist.
He's
type
a
hero?
specialist. He's a little bit more on the siege side. He would have been an old classic siege hero for us, but he's in the specialist category. Absolutely. You can build him more towards assassin. Absolutely. You
Okay.
can go through the talent tree.
I did
This is
notice
true.
that.
This is true for all the characters. So I'll say that Uther is a support, but there's a very legitimate offensive Uther you can play, right? Who's healing people based on damage he does, and more of an aggressive kind of paladin build. So there is a build for that, and just as a hero like Stitches is absolutely a warrior. There is a siege build for Stitches that you can go, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's a legitimate build, and there's of course wacky builds.
Right.
There's ability power builds for Stitches that make no
I
sense,
saw that.
but they're fun, and you can pull them off. You can use, if you're feeling creative today, and maybe you're not in the most serious game. You can sometimes surprise people. There's a hero in the game, Zagara, who's a specialist, a siege hero that I was playing for a long time, and I, for the fun of it, for a couple of games, I played a tank Zagara, and
That's cool.
And it wasn't super effective, but it had a comedic factor that made it fun. It was creative for me to play it that way, and it kind of shook up the game a little bit for everybody. I'd have players going, "Oh, it's Zagara!
Yeah.
Let's get her!" And they two of them would jump on me, and they're starting to beat on me like, "Yeah, how's it going for you guys? We're gonna be here a little bit." And they're like, "Why isn't this working?" And I'm like, "I know. Hey, can I get some help over here? I'm in trouble." Right? And so it was really cool to kind of shake up the game by having a creative build like that.
Yeah, I really like that that's the case for several of the heroes. I mean, yesterday I played a game, I was Tassadar, and I went like a DPS build.
Oh no,
and
Tassadar's, yeah.
And I killed Illidan one-on-one. It was insane.
No, he's brutal. Like we joke about Tassadar a little bit, like Tassadar, the support hero, right?
Yeah.
But he has a very legitimate support build. But his build is kind of in that sweet spot for us, where it feels like no, I have a choice here. I know I chose support. It was cool about him too is the heroic ability you get actually transforms him. So I can immediately see, this is an Archon, this is an attack damage. I see there's a graphical change on the screen. I go, this is not the support Tassadar, this is the dangerous one, right? And so you can sort of get the sense of the danger coming your way.
Sure, and that being said, especially with Abathur, can you talk to me a little bit about how the metagame, at least as far as team composition may go, or what you've seen internally? I mean, has it just been a random
No, it hasn't been
mishmash?
random. We generally, and you probably want to ask one of the balance guys, they might know a little bit more about this than I do, but what I've observed, right, is you tend to go with, a tank, 2 DPS, 2 assassins, a support, and a siege is generally how you go. But we've also seen double tank, two warriors, 2 assassins, and a support is also a way to go.
Okay.
It really depends on what happens. We've seen some crazy builds occasionally. They've been pretty terrifying. We've seen 4 warriors and a support. And it was surprisingly effective.
I'm kind of curious. Have you seen any like 4 support, 4 healers and 1?
I haven't tried that recently.
Like a 4 protect 1 type thing.
We tried that at one point. We had this build we were trying. Everybody can choose a hero, even if it's already been chosen.
God.
We had
5 stitches.
Yeah, 5 stitches. we had at the time 5 thralls.
That would be interesting.
And at the point, thrall had a bloodlust ability that could buff the entire map, and so everybody would save up their ultimates.
Bloodlust?
Yeah, and it was just whoa. It was just going like, oh my god, right? It was just horrible.
That's awesome.
It was really funny. But we have tried at different times all support builds. I haven't tried that in probably the last couple of months, so I don't know where that's at. But that's a good question.
Sure. And again, as far as like map sizes go, and that is something you said that you want to play around with?
Yeah, I think that's an option for us to continue to experiment with the game by having very small maps, very large maps. I think you'd asked me before.
Yeah.
All the maps seem like the same size to me, which I thought, that's interesting. Maybe that's true. I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's something I'd like to look back at the studio on Monday and see if that's something we can play with to really shake up the experience, because it's what we want to do. When you go to a battleground, we want you to go, this one. Okay, here's what I need to do. I'm going to build this way. I'm going to choose this hero. Whatever your solutions for solving the problem are, and you're really going to focus on building your team and your talents and your strategies in a way that's different than you did in the last game.
Sure.
Right? And that's what we're trying to get out of the battlegrounds.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Dustin. I appreciate you taking out the time. And
my pleasure.
It's been great speaking with you.
Cool.